Okay, so they give you the best rifle in the world. So what? Me? I'm sick of monkeying around. What I want to know is, when do we get to shoot this M1? I heard a man in this company say that yesterday. And I've got a hunch a lot of you feel the same way. So, I want to answer the question now. You'll start shooting the M1 when you're ready. And that means when you've mastered the groundwork we're teaching you in this course. You've had sighting and aiming, firing positions, trigger squeeze, and the principles of rapid fire. We've been training your eyes and your muscles for the job of shooting. And now your brains are going to get a workout. So this is a skull practice session. We'll take elevation and windage. I'm going to show you how to raise or lower your sights to take care of the natural drop of your bullet, and how to move your sights right or left to allow for the effect of the wind on your bullet's path to the target. Look at the sights on your rifles. Your front sight is fixed, and your rear sight is movable. It has two knobs, the windage knob to move it from side to side, and the elevating knob to move it up and down. Turn these knobs. You notice that they don't rotate freely. They click as you twist them, and those clicks are important. For each click, your sight moves an exact distance, and that's the way you keep track of the adjustments you make. All right, let's talk about elevation first. If you've ever thrown or hit or caught a baseball, you know the principle of elevation. You know that no matter how fast it's traveling, a baseball keeps falling all the time it's in the air. The farther it goes, the farther and faster it falls. Exactly the same thing is true of a bullet. Well then, suppose you're firing at a target 300 yards away, and you make no allowance for the fall of the bullet. Suppose that when it leaves the muzzle of your rifle, the bullet's heading straight for the center of the bullseye. But it drops. It starts to fall as soon as it leaves your rifle, and it keeps on falling. The distance it falls in the first few yards isn't worth worrying about. But at 300 yards, your bullet will drop 20 inches or more. It'll drop right off the bullseye. You've got to tilt your rifle up a little to allow for that drop. Suppose you raise your rear sight. But you keep our old friend the correct sight picture. The line of aim must always be the same. So, setting your rear sight higher makes you tilt your rifle up. The higher your rear sight, the higher the tilt of your rifle. Do you get that? When you adjust your rear sight for elevation, you simply fix the exact amount you're going to tilt your rifle. That means how much you're going to raise or lower the hit of your bullet on the target. And since your front sight is fixed and your rear sight stays where you set it, you make precisely the same allowance for every shot you fire. And that's where the elevating knob clicks come in. As I told you, each click moves your rear sight up or down an exact distance. When you change your rear sight, then, you tilt your rifle a corresponding amount. And this moves the hit of your bullet on the target a distance in exact proportion to the movement of your rear sight. At 100 yards, one click of elevation moves the hit of your bullet on the target up or down 1 inch. At 200 yards, one click moves it 2 inches. At 300 yards, 3 inches. And so on. That's what the book means when it says, one click of the elevating knob moves the strike of the bullet 1 inch on the target for each 100 yards of range. To move the hit of the bullet up, raise the rear sight. To move it down, lower the rear sight. And that's all there is to it. Now let's see if you've got that. You're firing at this target at 200 yards. Your first shot hits 10 inches low. What are you going to do about it? Thompson?
Sir, at 200 yards, each click raises the bullet 2 inches. So you take 5 clicks to raise it 10 inches.
Right. One more. Your range is 500. You've made too big an allowance, and your first shot strikes 5 inches too high. What do you do about it? Hopper.
Sir, 5 inches at 500. You'd have to bring the rear sight down. Why, just 1 click.
Right again. Each click moves the strike of the bullet 1 inch for each 100 yards. You all see that? All right. Let's move on to windage. You may have heard that windage is tough, but don't let it throw you. It's no more mysterious than elevation. There may be a few more things to keep in your head, but take it easy, and you won't have any trouble with it. Now, you might find it hard to believe that the wind can have much effect on anything as small and fast-moving as a bullet. But you can take my word for it. Any wind, unless it's coming from straight behind you or straight in front of you, is going to blow your bullet off its course. Take it as we did elevation. Suppose you're firing at 300 yards, and you make no allowance for the wind. Suppose that when the bullet leaves the muzzle of your rifle, it's heading straight for the center of the bullseye. But there's a wind from your right. That wind keeps pushing your bullet to the left, forcing it off your line of sight and off the target. Once again, you've got to make an allowance. You've got to start your bullet off to the right of your line of aim, so that the force of the wind will push it over into the bullseye. In other words, you've got to point your rifle into the wind. If you were shooting an old-time squirrel rifle with fixed sights, you'd have to guess at windage correction. You'd have to sort of aim into the wind a little.
Bet you jug of corn you can't get that dark crow that's run through the hay.
You're on. Right, smart wind blowing. I guess she'd take about 5 inches off toward the right.
That's what we call taking Kentucky windage, aiming each shot into the wind by guesswork. And if you had nothing better than a hillbilly rifle, that's what you'd have to do. But you've got an M1 rifle, and it's a different story. It's true, you have to start with a guess at the effect of the wind. And we'll show you some tricks about making your guess accurate. But with the M1, you've got a movable rear sight. And you take right windage by moving it to the right. Left windage by moving it to the left. Then when you've made your adjustment, you line up your sights on the target, taking the same sight picture you always do. But now, you're not sighting straight down along the rifle barrel. And as a result, you angle your rifle to one side. The farther to the right or left, you move your sight. The farther to the right or left, you point your rifle. Do you see that? Well then, when you adjust your sights for windage, you simply determine how much to the right or left you're going to point your rifle. Once you set your sights,